everyone.
All
My name is
right.
Lindsey Mauldin, and I'm the sales executive with forestry with SCS Global Services. Before we get started, just a few logistical notes. Everyone will be in listen only mode. During the webinar, please type your questions in the question box and we'll answer them at the end. Lastly, this presentation will be recorded and you'll receive a link to the recording tomorrow. I'd like to thank you for spending this time with us. SES is a certification body located in California's Bay Area with satellite offices around the world and has been a leading organization in the movement for sustainable wood and forests, but also food safety and human rights for nearly 40 years. SES can offer an extensive suite of certifications, including SFI, PEFC, SBP, FSC, carbon offset verification and validation, and so much more. We're so excited you're here with us today as we talk all about SFI, the Sustainable Forestry Initiative. With me today, I have Annie Perkins. Annie is the Senior Director of Green Building and Supply Chain with SFI. Annie has spent the last 2 decades working to advance equitable, sustainable development through product transparency, labeling, and certifications. Her work supports a more circular economy and helps mitigate climate change. Welcome, Annie, and thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks, Lindsey. Excuse me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to talk.
Absolutely. Today's webinar will be discussing the introduction to SFI Chain of Custody certification. Today we'll discuss who is SFI, the Sustainable Forestry Initiative, how SFI certification can add value. We'll discuss SFI community engagement and resources. We'll touch on LEED Green Building, Sustainable Biomass Program, and PEFC endorsements. We'll talk about how SFI certification can change your business for the better, market research, toolkits, and the database available just for you. Annie, can you tell us who is Sustainable Forestry Initiative?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Lindsey. I sure can. So at SFI, we like to say we provide choices that are better for people and the planet. We are a nonprofit governed by an independent 3-chamber board of directors, equally representing the economic, environmental, and social sectors. This slide here just gives you a glimpse of our current board of directors, all who are represented at an executive level representation. And so at SFI, we envision a world that values and benefits from sustainably managed forests. And it's really our mission, which is to advance sustainability through forest-focused collaboration that really helps us get there. And so all of the work that we do really falls into 4 key pillars of work. Standards is what most people are most familiar with and know us most for. We have forest management standard, chain of custody standard, all of which we will talk about today. We also do a ton of work in conservation impact, environmental education through something called an arm called Project Learning Tree, as well as our community engagement. And that's really just a high-level overview of who we are. We've been around for about 25 years, and we're evolving. Every day we evolve for the better.
Thank you so much, Annie, for that brief introduction of SFI. Next, we're going to talk about how SFI certification adds value. Annie, can you tell us how SFI certification adds value to your organization, mitigates risk in the supply chain, and helps your company to participate in the sustainable products market?
Sure, Lindsey, I can. So all the work that we do that I described in the 4 key pillars of work really jointly and together work to address the multiple challenges that face us globally today. So whether we're concerned about advancing towards a more circular economy or specifically addressing climate and carbon, or we're looking for better packaging or building solutions, or we really want to prepare the next generation to be ready to address green jobs, or address biodiversity and species for habitat. All of the work that we do within those 4 pillars work in tandem together to provide solutions for the challenges that face us today. Excuse me. And as I mentioned, it all really stems from our forest management standard. We have a robust forest management standard that we revise about once every 5 or so years. And then that chain of custody is the standard and certification that passes through the supply chain and touches everyone along the supply chain to help ensure then to the end user and everybody along that value chain that fiber, wood, paper, whatever is the fiber from the forest has come from a sustainably managed forest. And so I just wanted to show this slide for the viewers today to show kind of an overview of some of the standard enhancements that we've recently implemented in the last iteration of those forest management standards. Because while we do work in all those 4 key pillars and there's a multitude of associated benefits, it really does stem from that on the ground management of the forest. And so, as I mentioned, about every 5 years, we revise those standards. And last year, we launched the 2022 standards. And this slide shows you just kind of a highlight of some of the enhancements that were made to the standard. We enhanced some of the objectives. There are 17 objectives that you see. Here's some of them here. But most notably as well, we elevated climate smart forestry and fire resiliency and awareness to their own objective for pretty obvious and apparent reasons. We've always addressed them within the standard, but due to the urgency and severity of both of those, they are now elevated to their own. Also, enhanced metrics and requirements within biodiversity and other of the objectives that you see here, Indigenous peoples' relationships, and so much more. We also are working on an urban standard, which is really cool. This particular standard is a forestry standard, particularly for urban settings, whether it's a corporate headquarters or perhaps a small park or perhaps your backyard. But what's really cool about this one, Lindsey, is that it focuses on human health and well-being, using trees as that asset that's so important. So it really puts people in front, which is obviously of key importance as we try to tackle all the challenges that face us today. I put this slide in here too to show you how we have the scale to make a difference. So the green line here just shows you kind of the historical growth that we've seen in the last 20 plus years. The green bar is SFI certification. So currently we're over 350 million acres certified in the US and Canada of forest lands that have chosen to place our standards on forest lands to help add value and provide assurances. So that growth and the amount certified to SFI really shows that we have the scale to make a difference. And other worth noting within the conservation arm, well, actually it's within our standard, we are the only forest management standard that requires certified organizations invest in forest research. So this slide, gives you a quick glimpse of kind of that historical context of the amount of money and investment that has taken place through a multitude of collaborations and partnerships to really focus on the health and well-being of forest activities. So for instance, this slide talking about 2020, and the breakdown there of the percentages shows you what that year's investments went to. So forest health and productivity, fish and wildlife, water quality, and so on. And also another really cool thing about this, in addition to all the plethora of wonderful scientific data that we get and we can use to help iterate for improvements, but also it shows and we're able to leverage an extensive amount of partnerships and collaborations, which is so key in success of everything we do. And one other thing, Lindsey, I wanted to mention too is our conservation grant. This piggybacks on what we were talking about. We provide conservation grants to different folks who apply for them to help to advance our common goals for healthy forests and everything that stems from them. SFI also invests in forest research, and we have what's called a Conservation Impact Sounding Board that helps us guide those dollars. And so we specify our dollars in research into the areas of water, biodiversity, and carbon because they're really top of mind and pretty critical. And this research is super important because it really helps to provide a better understanding of the sourcing impact for brand owners. It also helps to validate certification and the cost of certification for landowners and other certified organizations. And it provides a better understanding and more knowledge to a variety of different conservation leaders. And as I mentioned before, too, it helps to facilitate continual improvement as we work to continually do what's best on the ground with our forest management standards. And now another way that it helps to mitigate a risk and provide assurances, Lindsey, is all the work that we do really aligns nicely with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 of them, but we most closely align with the 6 that are listed here: quality education, clean water, education, production, life on land, and of course partnerships for the goals. So that's kind of in a nutshell, a high-level overview of some of the ways that we really work to help organizations and everyone that chooses to use the SFI certification and chain of custody to help mitigate risk and also leverage all these wonderful associated benefits that stem from proper forest management.
Absolutely, Annie. Thank you so much for that in-depth explanation and highlighting all of the wonderful things SFI is doing for our forests. Next, we'll talk about community engagement, environmental education, and SFI resources supporting equitable and sustainable development. I'm so excited for you to share about this topic specifically, Annie. Thank you so much. Can you tell us how
Yeah.
SFI supports communities through grants? Project Learning Tree, what is Project Learning Tree? Oh no.
Uh-oh, we've got something found. Oh dear.
So sorry
Never mind.
about
Nothing to
that.
see there. It's all
SFI
good. Yeah, Lindsey,
implementation.
I'd
Great,
love to jump right in.
fantastic.
Sure. Yeah, community is super important. As you know, healthy forests expand into the communities, and that's one of the most important aspects of healthy forests is to really benefit the surrounding communities and beyond as well. And so our community pillars, where we really work to advance collaborations between local communities and our entire huge SFI network to mutually increase that understanding of the values and benefits provided by sustainably managed forests. Lindsey, we have what are called SFI implementation committees, and they are about 35 different regional, state specific, boots on the ground committees that contain folks from organized SFI organizations and other folks within the network to help raise the level and understanding and educate everybody, whether they're with a certified organization or not. So we conduct a lot of logger training, and we conduct a lot of educational outreach for small family landowners who may not have the resources to otherwise implement or perhaps know best management practices. So that's an awesome thing that the SICs do, the implementation committees. As I mentioned, they also provide logger training, which is super important because back prior to this was a requirement for certified organizations. And 1995, only 34% of the loggers were trained professionals because it's not otherwise outside of the SFI standard required of them. So within the standard, it is a requirement. And so now we're up to 96% of those resource professionals, harvesting professionals, and loggers are properly trained so that they can notice things that might be awry or perhaps not right, and they are familiar with best management practices and know what to look for, and can be another source of great information and quality assurance as well. And in addition to those conservation grants, we also offer community grants. And so every year we have a request for proposal for those. And again, another way to advance our goals with healthy forests within the communities and all of the work we do there. We're also very proud and honored to work with over 50 Indigenous groups across the US and Canada. And many of those, well, 50 have chosen to have their lands certified to SFI standards. And then over 180 communities we work with in the US and Canada for a variety of different educational, green career pathways and other collaborative projects. So this is a green guide to jobs in Canada, which focuses on 22, I believe, or no, this one has 12 voices of Indigenous and Inuit leaders within the forest sector to really help provide and share their story of working in the natural resources sector, so that the younger generations, this is targeted through 9th through 12th graders, can see all the possibilities that they could also have within the sector. And similarly, we just recently published this Black Faces in Green Spaces, the Journeys of Black Professionals in Green Careers, which is an awesome guide that showcases 25 Black professionals in green careers to once again help inspire the younger generation to see what roles that they can have in the future. So oftentimes the young, youth needs to be able to see older mentors in those roles so that they can too envision that that's a possibility for them. And of course, we want to, with only 3% of Black and Brown folks in the natural resources and sector, we really want to increase that to leverage all the benefits that offers. We've published these resources in collaboration and underneath what's called our Project Learning Tree, which is our educational arm. So Project Learning Tree is where we really work to advance environmental education and forest literacy and career pathways using trees and forests to the world. And so this is an example of some of the curriculum resources that we develop. We provide K through 12 curriculum. It's implemented in, I believe, almost every state across the U.S. And we also provide professional development for teachers, both traditional and non-traditional teachers. So in the classroom, as well as perhaps environmental centers and homeschools as well. But this is award-winning curriculum, and we reach over 2 million students and many different educators as well. And a good portion of this curriculum takes students outside to really understand the benefits of nature and learn about trees and forests, so that then they have a better understanding of it and value it when they are older in the workforce. I think that disconnect is often where we run into problems, and so by educating the youth, we help to close that gap. And that network is growing. The PLT, Project Learning Tree network, is growing, and we're reaching folks all across the globe as well, which is super exciting. You might ask, why is this important? Well, it's super important. I kind of touched on it, but a forest literate society is what we need in order to value and understand the benefits of healthy, sustainably managed forests. So whether we're looking for new solutions to packaging or to building solutions, or we want to ensure that we're using renewable materials in our supply chain, or we want to increase the respect and understanding of Indigenous people's rights and knowledge, or many things. We really need to start with a good solid base of a forest literate society. And you probably would be of interest to know this little fun fact, that 79%, almost 80% of consumers really support environmental education initiatives for youth. So that really focuses on how trees and forests can help address sustainability challenges that face us today.
Thank you, Annie. Just a quick note, I see all of your questions coming in. Keep asking away. We will try to get to as many of those questions as we can at the end. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about LEED Green Building, Sustainable Biomass Program, and PEFC endorsements. Annie, can you tell us more about these programs?
Sure. Let me touch briefly on these. So since 2016, SFI is recognized by USGBC, as are all other credible forest certifications as well. We have a strong working relationship with USGBC, who is the entity that oversees LEED. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, which is applied to buildings. But they're really working to advance in healthier communities as well. SFI has partnered and sponsored the Women in Green event at their Green Build. They put on a Green Build conference, expo and conference every year, and we've done that for about 6 or 7 years. Here in Minnesota, where I reside, I've been on the board for probably, I don't know, maybe a decade, and I'm just outgoing chair for USGBC here in this particular region, we work very closely with them on a multitude of different projects as well. So that's our connection with USGBC and LEAD. PEFC, which is the program for the endorsement of forest certification, is a global umbrella, and they recognize numerous different forest certifications across the globe, one of which is SFI. So we're endorsed by PEFC. This pie chart gives you just a little bit of a glimpse between kind of the global landscape of certifications. And so all of the green is PEFC. The solid green represents SFI's portion of that. So SFI represents nearly 40% of all global certifications and over half of PEFC certifications. So that's just a quick glimpse to help provide kind of a global perspective on certifications. And while the SFI forest management standard is applicable to the lands in the US and Canada, product then goes overseas to 120 plus different countries. And when it does, they can choose to put the PEFC label on it if they would like to, because that's what's recognized over there. This is a video that we are going to skip, but it's on our website if you'd like to see it. It talks about some of the nice associated benefits with building with wood, which also then are the same benefits with paper packaging, cardboard, or anything like that as well, anything stemming from the forest, as long as it's from a responsibly managed forest. And then also SFI certified woody biomass qualifies for feedstock, is qualified feedstock for the Sustainable Biomass Program. And that's all those questions, Lindsey.
Thank you, Annie. That was wonderful. Next, we're going to talk about certification and your company. We're going to discuss market research and how certification can change your company for the better. Annie, can you tell us why companies choose certification? How consumers feel about certified products? And can you tell us about the SFI product database?
Sure. Yeah, so I've kind of touched a little bit on why companies choose certification, risk mitigation, providing assurances. We do have some stats as to why the top 3 reasons why organizations choose to get certified. It really helps for them to meet their customers' sustainability objectives. It demonstrates the importance of responsible forest management to customers and shareholders, everyone along the supply chain. And it helps to achieve their sustainability goals. And again, I would add that it mitigates risk and provides assurances. And so it helps to communicate organizations the work that they're doing that aligns with their sustainability goals, whether it's in their sustainability reporting, sustainability reports, or ESG goals. But by specifying and sourcing and getting certified, SFI certification helps to meet those goals. And also, some of the reasons why they choose to use the logo and the label is that it helps to create positive corporate image, and it communicates, again, to their stakeholders and end users their corporate social responsibility, and also customers and markets demand it. I don't know about you, Lindsey, but when I stand in the grocery store or any store and I have a plethora of options, fish, I think of fish. I want to make sure I'm buying the good stuff. So certifications really help in that. And over 25%, over a quarter of Fortune 100 companies choose to use the SFI label on their products. And 52% of consumers surveyed have heard of SFI, and of those, 90% trust it. So third-party certifications are becoming more and more trusted all the time, and actually are more trusted than corporations overall. And some more fun facts that consumers really do care about the environment. I think a lot of times, again, they're busy and they don't know what the best choices are. So it's helpful to have certifications that help guide them to better purchases. So over 70% of consumers say it's a good idea to buy wood products from sustainably managed forests if they're seeking to combat climate change, which I'm hopeful almost everyone is seeking that on a daily basis. And then also it's similarly a really good idea for consumers to buy paper and cardboard products from sustainably managed forests. Again, to help contribute on their part in making good decisions to combat climate change. This is similarly, I think we probably just said something similar, but 70% of consumers really know that paper and cardboard are a good choice when it comes to addressing climate change. And we have seen a 20% increase in the request of organizations that choose to put the SFI logo on product placements. So that's on the rise. And you mentioned, Lindsey, that we do have a database. So on our website, we have a customer-facing database where you can help find different products that you may be looking for as well. So as a certified organization, you can place information in there as well. And then also we have a plethora of helpful information for certified organizations to help promote their certification. So whether it's a soft claim on a website or something in a written document, or if they would like to use some written content that we have to go into sustainability reports, we really want to make it easy for those sustainability professionals and organizations to leverage the good benefits of SFI certification and help talk about it in a meaningful way. So again, this is what I've touched on, but we have information that speaks to all the associated benefits. So perhaps an organization's goal is specific to water. We have a lot of nice content that speaks to the fact of how an organization helps to ensure water quality and quantity due to their sourcing of SFI certified material. And that's just one example. We have others for whether it's carbon, climate, or what have you, biodiversity. Again, I mentioned soft claims. So suffice it to say, we have toolkits available for SFI certified organizations and folks choosing to use the label that we want everyone to talk about the good benefits and share that good story. So this is our last slide, Lindsey, and really this just in summary, again, whether we're talking about specifically the forest management standards, or we're talking about the conservation work that we do, or the boots on the ground touch points we have with the community, or the resources and valuable educational components that we work with through Project Learning Tree, all these things together really make for a great advancement toward offering better solutions to everyone along the supply chain, all the stakeholders, and then also the end users and the planet as well. So people on the planet, Lindsey, that's what we're here for.
Thank you so much, Annie. What an amazing time we've had today. Before we get to your questions, I just want to provide a little wrap up briefly. If you have any questions, or if you would like to apply for an SFI Chain of Custody certification, please contact me. My email address is listed here. And if you have any questions for Annie at SFI, her email address is also listed. We also have some more upcoming SFI webinars this year, including an SFI conference recap. The conference is coming in May. And we'd love to feature a company case study and talk more about specifics of community engagement. So next, I'm going to just go ahead and ask some of the questions that you guys have brought up for us today. Annie, can you tell us how PEFC is helpful in terms of companies' exports?
Sure. So while SFI has a strong presence in North America, our label recognition is not so strong overseas because that's not our market. So PEFC's endorsement is critical for exporting fiber, so that then, as I mentioned, when it goes overseas, they can choose to put the PEFC label on it because we have that endorsement from them. And that's no easy task either. So it's a strong marks to meet in order to achieve that endorsement. And so we do have that on our on our forest management and chain of custody. And so then therefore that product can receive the PEFC label, which is what folks in Europe and the UK and overseas other countries recognize that label.
Thank you. Excellent. Can you tell us why organizations may choose different standards, such as SFI,
Uh,
PEFC?
sure. Yeah. Well, I would say perhaps maybe it's, I'm not, well, PEFC would be a regional thing, and I think it'd mostly be a regional thing. So PEFC and is available globally. So if your organizations are, if you are sourcing from other countries other than the United States or Canada, you probably would want to ensure that you have that certification. If you're sourcing from North America, US and Canada, SFI is prominently available, so that would probably make sense for you to choose that certification as well. Plus, I guess if you depend on where your market is and your customer base, so SFI, you would want to have that prominent here in North America because that is what consumers recognize here.
Thank you. And lastly, can you tell us how SFI certification compares to sustainability standards established in the EU with the incoming EUDR regulation?
That's a big question, and it's a good
Absolutely.
question. And I don't have all of those details at my fingertip right now. I think it might be a developing situation as well. But perhaps, Lindsey, if we could maybe share some more information on that as a follow-up, because I think it's a pretty in-depth topic, one worth discussing for sure, but I would do it injustice to try to hack at it right now. But I would love to address it, but perhaps we could follow up with that.
I would love to add this to the agenda of our next webinar.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Annie. And with that, I would just like you to remind you all that you'll receive a link to this webinar for the recording tomorrow. And once again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact either Annie or myself at any point. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Lindsey.
Thanks, Annie.